Little Bradley.
Is it just there
It's
somewhere?
even with the little Bradley.
Is it spelled like pomegranate? I'll have to look it up.
Whew. Well, it's good to see everybody.
Good to see you
You
too.
too.
Right before we go through our awakening, you know, this is supposed to be a time that's very symbolic of the birth of Christ in us. And it's really interesting because that simply means the birth of our real self, who we really are, beyond what we've been taught we are. Is everybody pretty clear that from the time you were born, somebody's been describing to you what's true, what's real? Like from the time you were a baby, we started to get all these descriptions about what everything is. And then when you get to the point that you can remember all those descriptions and use all those descriptions without someone telling you what they are, then you are now a member of society. Mm-hmm. A member of society is somebody who's pretty much bought the whole thing. And so they believe what they were told. And it's really kind of funny because the Course talks about how the truth is simple. And that the ego, who knows what the ego is? Mm-hmm. Who can give me a definition of the ego?
Fear.
Fear. What's another definition of the ego?
Easing God out.
Easing God out. Anybody else?
Lack of faith.
Not the ego. Yeah,
Oh.
What is the ego?
Oh.
Yeah.
Something that we created to believe that we're separate.
Right.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? I know that all you Course in Miracles students for years.
Made real.
A fearful thought made real. The Course says the ego lives in the body. It looks out through the body's eyes. Based on that definition, where's the ego? In this room right now, where's the ego?
In your mind.
It's in your mind. It's the ego is the part of you that has a social security number. Just to make it, it's what you think you are. It's that conversation in your head that's telling you who you are as a separate being. And so the Course teaches that the reason why you can tell that what you have been taught isn't the ultimate truth is because there's too much dissatisfaction. There's too much seeking outside of ourselves to try to come up with a thing or person who's going to make us happy. If you talk to the average person, they don't say they're completely fulfilled in their experience. You found what you've been looking for. You know, those of you who see yourselves as truth seekers, you found what you're looking for. You found the truth. It's in a form that we can all use. So now it's time to stop seeking. Now it's time to what? You have found. So now what?
Use.
It's time to use it.
Apply it.
Right, because your reality is going to come at you based on these principles that you're learning right now.
They come fast.
Yeah. It's coming faster than ever before. So, in A Course of Love, we're going to be on page 192. You got the book. And we're going to be starting at the top of page 192. We're going to start at the sentence that says, right in the middle of that first paragraph, it says, when your heart can feel You need no judgment to tell you the difference between one thing and another. When your heart can feel, it says you don't need judgment to tell you the difference between one thing and another. You thus can begin to quit relying on your body's eyes to distinguish the true from the false, the real from the unreal, because when you really get into your heart, you will know what to do. You will know what's true for you. So we were talking about last week, how many things do you do that you really get your heart into? And how many things that you do are shoulds, gotters, and oughtas? I should do this, I ought to do this, I got to do this during the day. And how much is it, I'm really getting my heart into doing this? Good question. It says, love appeals to you through the heart. God appeals to you through your heart. Your heart has not been open to the appeals of love, partially because of your use of concepts. Concepts have been used to order your world and to assist your mind in keeping track of all that's in it. Your mind does not need this assistance. To begin to conceptualize in ways that touch your heart will free your mind of its reliance on thought concepts, thus allowing heart and mind to speak the same language or to be communicated with in the same way. There has been a division between the language of your mind, and one of the reasons why I'm reading like this is it's substituting for a meditation. It takes a minute to come out of the world, and this time of the year is particularly insane and very frantic. It's like a real frantic energy in the air around Christmas time. And personally, in terms of the outer experience of it, I'm usually so happy when it's over, in terms of the frenetic energy of it, not in terms of the purpose of joining and appreciating each other, but just how crazy people get this time of year,
Other people.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm always talking about other people. Certainly, I'm not ever speaking.
Others.
We are the accomplished. We are those who have accepted the truth and enlightened. Ooh. Yeah, that's right. We're so enlightened that we are willing to admit that we don't know everything there is to know. That's how you can tell that a person is moving toward enlightenment, is how much they're willing to admit divine ignorance. It's like one of the most common statements I used to always hear from people who were called elders when I was growing up was that they would always say, the older you get, the more you realize you don't know. And then when the younger you are, the more you think you do know, especially in the 20s. Because you're the one who's going to correct everything that everybody else did wrong before you. I remember that so vividly in my 20s. It's like I totally thought I had discovered what the truth was, and I knew what the world needed to fix it. And everybody else had done it wrong before me, especially when I got into New Thought, because I got into this kind of thinking when I was 23. And I just think back at how certain I was, and it basically was the same principles that I'm hearing right now. The big difference back then was that my ego, I thought even more that my ego was me, so I really thought that I really knew what was best for everybody based on what I had just learned, and then it was just a matter of getting everybody else to get on board, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really cool. And then when you get around 30, you go through what they call astrology, your first Saturn return, and then you don't realize it, but in the first 30 years of your life, you've had an opportunity to consciously and unconsciously experience your entire pattern. So you actually do not mature until you're 30. Like people think you're adult at 21, but actually between 21 and 30, you are not even alive yet. you're still acting out your programming almost completely. And then when you hit 30, then that's supposed to be when you're able to bring your creative expression into your physical reality. So the 30s is when you really start to get in touch with what do I want, as opposed to what I should want. That's why a lot of times it seems like marriages and relationships and stuff like that tend to end around that time. They call it the 7-year itch and the 8-year. It's not really that. It's just that most people make those commitments before they have any idea about who they are beyond what they've been taught and programmed. And then they find out that they're not at all that programmed. And then they've created a whole reality around that. And then most especially usually a relationship around that. And then in your 40s, you begin to become aware of how successful you've been at achieving your dreams. That's when you first come to the realization about whether or not you're really on schedule in terms of what you thought was going to happen in your life according to you. And they call that midlife crisis. What really is that all of a sudden you see where you are as opposed to where you thought you were going to be. And at the same time you realize you're not as young as you used to be in the world. So it gives you like this sense of urgency of, I've got to do it now, or I'm going to miss out on something, you know. And that's really interesting, yeah.
I really believe, and I thought this when I turned 40, when the famous saying is life begins at 40.
Yeah.
And I think that relates to that. Life begins at 40. You start to come of age. And
Yeah.
you start to see where you are, what you've done, what you haven't done, what you need to do, those kind of things. And I think that has to do with that saying. I really think there's something to it.
That life begins at 40 because by the time you get to your 40s, you should start to have some freaking idea of who you are, as opposed to, but in a youth-oriented society like we have in the West, then we are made to think that if you're over 30, you're over the hill, but it's like it's only at 30 that you even begin to start to take a look at who you really are. You know, and again, this is our dream. This is our spiritual identity activating itself through the physical reality. And then if you look at life like a bridge, then when you're younger than 50, it's like you're walking on this bridge and you don't see the other side of the bridge. You know, your 20s, your 30s, you're on this bridge of time, but you don't see the far shore. Then you hit 50, and way in the distance, you notice the other shore. And you realize, you start to come into the realization that this is a temporary sojourn. And that you really do have at the level of the body a limited time to express yourself and to be about your mission. Where before, just like there was endless time that you had to get your act together, right? And the other thing that happens in the 50s is usually that's a decade that people become very, very more comfortable with themselves. In the 40s, it's more like, did I do what I said I was going to do? Am I going through the midlife crisis? Am I as attractive as I used to be? And some people going to still, you go through that thing at the level of the body. And then in your 50s, what usually happens is you get a sense of comfort with who you are. Whether somebody else likes it or not, you're pretty much clear that this is, you ought to be moving in the direction, they call it feeling comfortable in your own skin, And then the 60s are a gestation period that is synonymous to what it's like when you're a child in the womb again, because you're getting ready to go through an entirely different birth of consciousness. And if you've really been getting in touch with your spiritual self, you should have been beginning to develop spiritual, mental, and psychic powers that compensate for the changes that begin to happen in your physical body. In other words, things you used to have to work really, really hard on the physical level to do, you are able to create that same reflection because of your consciousness state. That the money you used to have to work so freaking hard to get doing physical stuff, by the time you're 60, if you've done any kind of spiritual work, you should be at the point that you know that at some level you're sustained by something greater than yourself, that if your consciousness is focused on abundance and truth and love, and you're here to fulfill your function, and you really begin to realize your function is more than just seeking material things in the world, then you begin to psychically create and draw things to you, because you're getting ready to go to another level of consciousness altogether, because this is just a trip. This is just a trip through here, and sometimes we forget that it's just a trip through here. So right now, the sooner you get to the point that opening your heart and getting in touch with your heart and doing the things that you can get your heart into, and your connection to source is your primary focus, then the sooner you're able to enjoy every age, every time that you are, because you're in touch with the part of yourself that is timeless. Like, hold just a second. Like, one of the things that I noticed in just completing my 60th year was, and I was talking to a friend of mine that took me out to dinner for my birthday, the night before last, and we were both the same age. And we were talking about how being 60 was nothing like we thought it was going to be. That our idea of 60 was completely different from how we were experiencing it to be, which was a heck of a lot younger, and not any sense of age like you thought you would have. Mm-hmm. It's like I don't have any sense of feeling any different than I did when I was 50, 40, 30, or 20. The who I am doesn't feel any different whatsoever. So it's really talking about how long your body has been in this dream. It has nothing to do with who you really are or the energy that you have. But if you have a youthful spirit, then you really become timeless to people, and they don't even pay any attention to that anyway, because your consciousness is a youthful consciousness. What's a youthful consciousness? That's a consciousness that still has an exploratory attitude toward its experience. It's a consciousness that still believes there's incredible things to be experienced, and they want to allow themselves to be used for that, for love, for truth, for joy. They're not thinking of themselves in terms of being separate from everybody around them. It's about how creative can I be, how much of myself can I bring into my experience. They're not living through their job, they're not living through their children, they're not living through their grandchildren, they're enjoying all of that, but they're no longer identifying that as being more important than the expression of their own love and their own self. Does that make sense to everybody? And you begin to recognize that your body is really a learning device, and it's a device for you to use to fulfill your function, which is really ironic. You actually understand that your function is just to show up, allow love to come through you, and you be the one person in the room, unless there's somebody else like you, that's remembering the truth for everybody. In other words, you're the one person in the room that's remembering your spirit. You're the one person in the room that's remembering that you create your own reality through your thoughts. You're the one person in the room that's remembering you're not a body. You're the one person in the room that's remembering that we're all connected. That is really our function, is to wake up in this dream. So it doesn't matter what your physical job or career is in the world at all. The only thing that matters is whether you remember who you are at every minute. And if you do that, you're going to be taken care of, because now you're fulfilling your function for being in the world. But it takes guts to do that, because you're going to be thinking things and expressing yourself in ways that people who are still unaware of who they are will sometimes see as being insane. They'll think of you as being insane. But remember, the only reason why they think that you're insane is because you're talking too much. That's why would they think you were insane? It's got to be something you said. In most cases, you look normal, you dress normal, you got a car like everybody else got, or whatever. So what is it? Why are your friends thinking that you're crazy? It's usually because of what you're saying. So the easy way through life is to say, there's a question that brings God into every situation. And the question is this: what do I want? 1,000 times a day, ask yourself that. Every time you think of it, say, what do I want? That's the question that God lives in, because everything that you experience is being attracted to you through your desire, through your intent, through your allowance and your surrender. It's deep. It's deep. And I feel like that's why we come together. I was thinking about that the other day. Why do we come together? We come together because we want to hear the deep stuff. You know, I don't think we come together because we want to hear what everybody else learns. I think we're here because we want to hear the strange stuff, the good strange stuff. Is that right? What was your question, Chris?
So, so you said that at 30, we like.
30 is the time when you mature. That's when you become an adult.
Okay, so then we.
You're not an adult at 21. You can just legally drink.
So at 30, we start having getting an idea or a clue of what we want, right?
You by 30, you should know. You should have already seen your pattern. By now, you should have had enough relationships to see your pattern. By now, you see what I'm saying? By then, you know what your pattern is with your parents. You know what your patterns are with your friends. By the time you're 30, you should have some awareness of your patterns.
So then at 39, which I am, then I don't feel like I'm so behind the curve then, because I'm like starting to see these things. I'm starting to
that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said that at 40, that's when.
Well, 40 is when you become aware of how successful you've been at achieving the goals that you made in your 20s.
Okay.
You know, we all have great dreams in our 20s. And by the time you're in your 40s, either you've done them or you haven't done them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So you get a chance to see how well you've done what you say you were going to do. And sometimes, and you become aware that you really are not a child anymore. It's really time for you to be about what you are saying that you're going to be about. So it's really a cool time. You know, it's really a cool time. All the times are cool. That's what's interesting. That I'm seeing. It's like, and you can receive love no matter where you are. That whole thing about how old you are has something to do with how much love that you receive. And if you're real young, then you can attract people a lot easier. It's a bunch of crap. Your consciousness determines what you draw to you. It doesn't make any difference how old you are. If you really desire love, love is going to show up. If you really want a relationship, it's going to show up. If you really want a person that's turned on by you, they're going to show up because your consciousness is there. The way you feel in your heart is there. So don't be afraid of any of it, is what Spirit is asking me to share as a Christmas present to everybody tonight. You know, you're doing fine. If you're sitting up in here wanting to recognize who you really are and join your mind to your heart and take some responsibility for your experience and realize you're a spirit and more than just a human being that's trying to make it for a certain number of years and hope you get Social Security, then you're way ahead of the curve. You should be proud of yourself. You should be good. You should feel good about yourself. You're saving yourself lifetimes of suffering. And I mean that. The Course says for every minute that we're together focusing on the truth, it saves you 100 years of suffering. Every minute. Just 60 seconds of doing this saves you 100 years of drama. That's a good deal. And because you avoid the drama, because you're focusing on the truth, you never know what you've been saved from. So it looks to you like nothing's happening. To you, you go, well, yeah, because you're not going to experience that pain because of what you're doing right now. So to you, it'll look like nothing's really happening. But that's your clue you're doing really good because nothing's really happening. All you got to do is look around you and you see it's a lot happening to a lot of people around you. Why are you in the world but not of the world? Why is it that the safe didn't drop on your head? Yeah. And when you're really awake, even if the safe dropped on your head, you wouldn't care. Because who you are is beyond anything that could happen to your body anyway. That's where I want to go. That's what I want, you know. So that's why I'm here. And so every time we share this with each other and hear this together, it makes it realer. Any questions or comments before I go to the next paragraph? A lot of times the inner voice just tells me to share some things. And one of the things it was telling me to share is, you're so blessed. You're so friggin' blessed.
Thank you. Thanks for the Christmas present.
Yeah, you're so loved. You're so loved. You're so much further than you think you are. And it's been an honor and a pleasure for me this year to be teaching a course of love with you and seeing your commitment and your dedication it's very touching. It moves me in my soul. Because when you do this over 30 years like I have, you see so much. And you learn so much about yourself and your own ego. And you see, and you hear people say the same things to you over and over and over and over again. And you watch the patterns play themselves out, and you see the innocence in everyone that does it. Like usually, let me give you an example. Usually if a person comes to a class and they jump up and down and they freak out about how it's what they've been looking for all their life, and they're the most excited person in the world, and they want to lift you up and spin you around, that's usually the first one that stops coming. Because they come to create the energy of enthusiasm. And once they do that, they're gone. You know, who is it that seems to be the longest relationship that you have? It's usually the person that the relationship starts off mellow, slowly, almost like you become friends first. It's not all that tremendous friggin' passion that you're about to go crazy with each other. Because you know what I'm saying? It's like if you look at your experience, usually the relationships that are the longest lasting are not the ones that you're the most attracted to at first. It's usually the ones you're most attracted to at first that are the most temporary. Just watch it. Just look back over your own experience and you'll see it. You know, because it builds over time. It's like what we've done. We build a relationship over time. And so if we want to, we can go even deeper with each other than ever before, because most of us are not new to each other anymore. So the level of depth that we can go to is going to be phenomenal. That's why next year I'm going to concentrate more on workshops and things like that. Things that we can have a long, an extended period of time to absolutely go from A to Z in something. I need that. I need to go deeper because I need to learn deeper. So the Holy Spirit is going to make a lot of changes in my life next year. And I want you to really check out what your inner voice is telling you that you're supposed to be doing differently right now. Because I guarantee it is. All of you got some area right now that you know you got to do it differently. I don't even have to, you know, and you know where it is. Every one of you know where it is. Does somebody have a hand up? Okay. So let's go to the next paragraph. It says, paragraph. Did that make sense to everybody? Let me get feedback. Was that cool? Did everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Was that okay? All right. There has been a division between the language of your mind and heart. Your mind insists on thinking and learning in a certain way, a way contrary to the language of your heart. So your mind learns in a way that's contrary to what your heart is telling you. And he says, and so like two people from different countries speaking different languages, there has been little communication and much misunderstanding between your mind and your heart. Occasionally, the problems associated with the lack of a common language has been set aside when the actions needed in a certain circumstance has demanded cooperation. You see this in times of emergency or crisis of every kind. And like the two people from different countries who do not understand each other, working together momentarily diminishes the boundaries of language, and a temporary solidarity is formed through like action. At such times, two strangers who are foreign to one another might recognize that the other's heart is in the right place. The right place with two people, as with mind and heart, is the place of no division. Like right now, we feel like our heart is in the right place, sitting here right now, wanting to do this, even though it seems like we're all different and we look different and we got different everything. But right now, it's like our hearts are in the right place. He says the unification of mind and heart that produces right action currently occurs primarily in crisis situations. Like when 9/11 happened, everybody kind of came together. That's what crisis situations do. That's why souls create crisis situations. See, everything that's happening in the physical environment is being created by our minds and our consciousness. And we'll realize that one day. So everything that's happening has only one purpose, which is to bring us together. Now, we can choose to come together because of some crisis, or we could choose to come together because we choose to come together. See, that's what I'm doing on my spiritual path right now. I'm just going ahead and voluntarily doing what I'm told. It's like I've done it long enough now. It's been 30 years. I've done long enough to know that in the end, God wins. Okay, like I can fight with this truth, but in the end, I always go, okay, what you just said is absolutely true. So I'm just going ahead and doing it now. Where it used to be, I thought I had to analyze it, argue with it, try to prove to myself that my way was right because I was more invested in being right than being happy. Now it's like I trust my path. So if Spirit says I need to join my mind and my heart right now, and that I need to show up in a room and say my purpose for being here is to give and receive love, then that's what I'm going to do. And what happens is every time I do it, something wonderful happens in my life and in me. And everything I used to work so hard to make happen, I watch Spirit create it or not give it to me at all, which is also wonderful. So I'm learning how to get just as happy when I ask for something and it doesn't happen as I used to be happy if I asked for something and it did happen. That's an unusual place to be, because once I say, Holy Spirit, Jesus, whatever, decide for me in this situation, sometimes the decision is that I shouldn't have what I asked for. And I used to argue with that and think, well, maybe Spirit didn't hear me ask for this. Maybe I didn't pray good enough. And what I really got was, no, you asked for me to be in charge of this relationship, this situation, this circumstance. And what's happening right now is my answer. So you thought you wanted that relationship over there or whatever it might be, and it didn't happen. It's the answer. You wanted that job and you didn't get it. That was God's answer. You tried to move and it didn't work out. That was God's answer. You know, like with all the ones you ask, you got to start trusting that whatever happens after you ask must be God's answer, or you'll never develop into trust in your higher self. You can't go, oh, I asked, it didn't happen. Well, I must have done something wrong. Because the truth is, whatever is meant for you is going to get to you anyway, whether you do anything or not. That's the cool part. That something that's meant for you, you couldn't stop it from getting to you if you wanted to. That's deep, isn't it? Like, you can't stop your good from getting to you if it's a good that your higher self wants you to have. How could you stop God from giving you the love that you say you wanted? If you don't have that kind of power to stop it, so if it isn't happening, it's because I'm not 100% committed to having it, or it's not best for me and it's not for my own best interest. And when you look at it that way, or as soon as you can look at it that way, you'll feel a lot more peace in your life. You know, like as a teacher, when I stopped going, oh, I'm really successful if I can get on Oprah, especially her last season. Or I'm really successful if I got 1,000 people that come to my class. That's the wrong perception. That's the perception of an asleep mind. My path told me that everybody who comes into my life is sent. And so everyone who comes to the class were sent that night. That's the way you look at it if you want to feel peace and not get your ego involved. You see what I'm saying? It's like, my path is telling me how to look at things so I won't be stressed out and freaked out all the time. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And you have it. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why I can't even begin to conceive of somebody coming to this class for months and months and don't have a book. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, why would you be on a path that you don't want to even see what it says? Doesn't make sense. If you say it's your path, which to me is different from saying I'm dropping in on something to kind of see what it's saying. That's different from saying, this is my path. This is something that I see is valuable to me, and this is my path. So what does that say? What does that say? It's not a judgment, I'm just curious. What does that say? What does that say about your sincerity? Because one of the things that you realize on the spiritual path is that talk is cheap. And it's real easy to say the right words. But when you begin to wake up, you pay a lot more attention to actions than you do to words. That's one of the ways that you can tell when a soul is beginning to wake up. They listen to what you're saying, but what you are speaks louder than your words. like how you are expressing yourself speaks louder than any words that you use. So you can say you're all about spirituality all you want, and you can say the course of love is your path, or you can say the course of miracles is your path. But if I'm not investing any time in it, I am kidding myself about the sincerity of that path. I'm sorry. I know that people like to feel that they're dedicated without actually putting any time in it. But what's so cool is that what you invest your time in is what you value. They are exactly the same thing. That's why it's thousands of people in the mall tonight, in spite of the traffic, because that's what they value. And again, it's not a judgment, it's an observation. It's a way to keep from fooling yourself, because I go through that all the time. Okay, Earl, you're feeling upset about something right now, and you wish something was different in your life. What does your truth say about it? What does the Course of Love say about how you should deal with this situation? How does the Course in Miracles say you should? See, if you're really on your path, that's what you do. You go, right now I'm afraid about my financial situation. Okay, what does the Course of Love say about being taken care of? What does the Course in Miracles say about being sustained? You would go to what your path would say. Like if I'm feeling particularly needy, then that's when I don't call anybody to try to do anything with them. That's not the same as saying I wouldn't extend to get another reflection. But I'm trying not to convince myself that I need something outside of myself in order for me to feel whole and complete inside. So if I can, then that's when I'm going to kind of cool out and take my book out and read, rather than go, let me fill up this board with a person as quick as I possibly can so that I won't have to deal with what I'm thinking and going through right now. Mm-hmm. Let me spend this time with Jesus right now. Mm-hmm. That's what I need to do. Yeah. I need to spend some time with something that's never going to leave me. Yeah. That's never going to leave me. Never going to leave me. Mm-hmm. Ever. That's what an awakened being starts to do. It starts to move toward eternal stuff. Stuff that's going to always be there. I know whether I'm in the U.S., I got to trust that when I go over back to Europe Monday, that God is not domestic. that God is international.
Yeah.
So I'm also going to have the same laws of the universe operating through me every step of the way and back. But the thing about traveling into unfamiliar territory is that you're much more likely to call on God. You're much more likely to pray, and you're much more likely to ask. That's why trips tend to be magical. We don't realize that what's making them magical is because we know we don't know. And so we're asking for help all the time and asking for God. But when you're in a familiar environment, there's a tendency not to do that because you know Denver and you know your way around Denver and you know the people in Denver. So it's much less likely that a person would every step of the way say, Holy Spirit, what should I do in this situation? Where should I go? What should I say? But when you travel, and especially it's unfamiliar, you just constantly hoping God is in your mind and in your heart.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll be in the right place in the right time. You'll be in the right place in the right time because you're going to be blessed with having Debbie. Debbie's going to cover for me while I'm gone. And she has some really cool stuff that she's going to do with you all. So and what I love is that, how can I tell this group is real? Because they still come together whether I'm here or not. Mm-hmm. That's what makes me feel so good about you, because it's not about me. It's about you, and it's about us, and it's about you letting it come in new ways. So that excites me. Then I get a chance to have whatever the lesson is that I need to have, where I'm going. You know, it's some magical, incredible stuff going on because my heart and my mind are becoming joined. The way I think and the way I feel are not different, and if they are, it means I have not made up my mind and I don't know what I want. That's all it means. If you're in conflict right now, it's because you don't know what you want. That's it. Once you get clear, then the universe goes, there it is. Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. So I'm excited. I'm excited for us. I'm really excited for us. Because you're going to see leaps of consciousness beyond your wildest dreams this year.
Earl,
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could repeat what you said about whatever is meant for me will get to me.
Yeah, whatever is meant for you will show up.
Uh-huh.
It'll show up. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay. It will show up unless you are afraid of it. And then spirit will not give you what will increase your fear, but your ego will.
Okay.
So if you're in something and all of a sudden you're in fear and conflict, you can be rest assured that the ego is blessing your relationship. The Course teaches that anger is the ego's blessing. So how can I tell when my ego or my fear is in charge? I'm in conflict in that area. How can I tell when my right mind is in charge? I am perceiving in a peaceful way. It's that simple. And if you are in conflict, don't beat yourself up about the conflict. Just say, wow, here I am in conflict again. It's another chance for me to see it differently. Big deal. Is this like the first time I've ever been in conflict? Isn't it amazing that we react to something that happens so frequently as if we're shocked? That always just amazes me how every time I'm upset, I act like, what? I'm upset. I shouldn't be upset. It's like, man, you've been upset since you were playing Cowboys and Indians. You've been upset. You were upset when you didn't get your yo-yo. I remember yo-yos. You know what I'm saying? So I realized I've been playing this game with myself as long as I've been on the planet. This game of coming up with something I think I want, getting upset if it doesn't happen. Coming up with something else I think I want, getting upset if it doesn't happen. Coming up with something else that I think I want. Then the spirit is saying, you know what? You could cut out the middleman and you could just be given what you need. How about that? How much fun would it be to be gifted with the relationship in your life that's the most incredible relationship you ever had? What would it be like to be gifted with the job or the career that moves you in your soul? What would it be like to be gifted with the health condition that you think you want? What would it be like to be gifted? A higher consciousness is a consciousness of gifting. Yeah.
I always like asking you a practical, day-to-day kind of questions on behavior,
Right.
on your behavior, how you would do things like that.
Right.
Okay, my book. I have a question about this, and I want you to give me the truth.
I promise you.
My book is in my car. I don't bring the book in every time I come here. I practice putting the book at my bedside because remember we had a while back we had a conversation. I wake up and I'm scared, I'm confused or whatever like that. You said keep the book by your bed or whatever, but then I have the book in my car. I make we meet before this, I make a conscious decision whether I'm gonna bring my book in or I'm not gonna bring it in. I don't have it in tonight, and I didn't bring it in the last time I was here, or the last time I believe, because I can hear you better by not having the book. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe. Mm-hmm. Is I can hear you better. I read the book. I know what's in the book up to this point, but I didn't bring it in. Am I fooling myself? Am I doing?
No.
Am I?
What I was saying was those who don't own the book or read the book.
Okay.
I'm saying it's like a person saying, I want to learn how to fly an airplane, but I don't want to take any instruction, and I'm going to be the best pilot that's ever flown. That's the exact same thing. It's like I'm going to master a thought system that I don't even know what it is. It's like it doesn't even make any sense. There's no other area of our life that we would do that in, but we have a tendency to do it on our spiritual path. It's like it's the one thing that people think that they can do without instruction. It's really funny. It's like I'm going to make this up as I go along, and you can. But that's like me sitting down saying, I'm going to invent that recorder. Yeah, you could invent it, or you could just have the one that's already made and use it. So the truth is saying to us, there is no thought, feeling, emotion, belief, anything that you're going to go through that has not already been gone through. And I'm going to show you how to deal with every single thing that comes up in your life. And so this is what this is. I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to deal with it. And what we do is we try to figure it out. And so as you love yourself, you find that what you'll do is go, oh, I'm ready to be given the answer. I'm ready to have it easy. I'm ready to get rid of the drama. I can't tell you how many relationships in my life that I have stopped in their tracks just from observing the person. Innocent as they can be. Drama, 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 drama. All you gotta do is listen. They got 9 crises going at once, right? And they're not taking any responsibility for it. Now, there's a difference between a person telling you about stuff that they're going through and they're also realizing at some level they're responsible for it and they really want another way of looking at it. And a person just creating drama, 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 and think that they really are the victim of everything that's happening around them and they have nothing to do with it whatsoever. If you enter into a relationship with a person like that, then you're asking for drama. And that's what you're going to receive, because the Course in Miracles defines a relation. When you say you want to be in a relationship with somebody, what you're saying is, I am willing to experience the results of your thinking with you. That's what you're saying when you say you're going to get in a relationship with somebody. You're saying, however they look at reality, which you know is going to have an effect, you're willing to experience that effect with them. You know? And so when you look at it that way, it really will give you a different perspective of relationship. You'll find yourself wanting to really be clearer about how that person thinks, because what you're saying is, I'm ready to join you in the way that you think and the results of the way that you think. And if you just listen and observe, they're going to show you.
Sure.
So if you're talking to this person and they're still dogging out the person that they were just in a relationship with, you know they haven't healed their relationship issue. So if they get in a relationship with you, you're going to be that conversation somewhere down the line. You're going to be the person that they're saying next. Because how do you know that? Because they still have not taken enough responsibility for what they've just gone through to realize the other person didn't do anything to them. Hello? So they're looking for you to make up for what the other person didn't do for them. Right. So you're the one that's going to give them all the attention and all the love that the person before you didn't. So they're not really in a relationship with you. They're really in a relationship with the person that's not there. Because they're comparing you to them. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why a lot of times when people go through a relationship and it doesn't work out, they immediately try to substitute somebody else as quick as they possibly can to get their wounded self-esteem restored. That's really what it's about. They call it the rebound. Because I got hurt and I'm not ready to take responsibility for what happened yet. So I need somebody to validate me as quick as they possibly can. So if you think you need that, just go Match.com and say, I'm in rebound, and is anybody else in rebound, and let's rebound together. Let's do a temporary rebound. So ask yourself, am I really wanting to join this person because I'm feeling whole and complete and want to connect with somebody else that's feeling whole and complete or want to? Or am I trying to make up for something that I just went through to make myself feel better about how something else turned out? Hello? That's what the truth teaches you. It teaches you how to tell the difference between when you're getting ready to fool yourself and when you're getting ready to do something different. And let me tell you, you're not really dealing with a different relationship unless the person you're talking to is talking different. If they're talking the same thing that everybody else talked to you, or you're talking the same thing you talk to them, you're not in a different relationship. You're in the same relationship with a different person. That's a big difference between in a different relationship with a different person is being in the same relationship with a different person. How many of y'all have done same relationship with different people? Okay. Now, and you're innocent. But at some point on the path, you have to start to consciously, proactively catch yourself. What's your first hint? That you are repeating a pattern. You are attracted to them. I say it again. What's the first clue that you're about to repeat a pattern? You are attracted to them. You pick them out. Why? Because they reminded you of your pattern. Why? If not, one person would be just as acceptable as any other person. So what makes one person the one you reach out to when somebody else not. The special self. It's because you most match my pattern while you don't most match my pattern. So the first thing to be aware of is if you single somebody out, you are activating your own pattern. So how do you not get trapped in that? You take the truth that you're studying and you immediately start to apply it to this new relationship. What do you mean? What's going to make this relationship different is you're going to assume 100% responsibility for your experience of this person. Now that's a new experience. But if at any level you're saying this person is responsible for my feelings, it's the same relationship then with another person. So it's not even complex. The different relationship is one where I'm taking responsibility and the other person is taking responsibility for their happiness. The same relationship is when I say, without you, I don't feel whole and complete. If you're an awakened being, then you are ecstatic when a relationship begins and you're ecstatic when it ends. Both of them make you equally happy. When you're still not aware, you will be pounding away, you will be upset, you will be missing them, and that's normal because if we already knew how to do it, we wouldn't be here. So it's okay if you feel all of those feelings. But as you wake up, you go, oh, if I really was believing what I'm learning through the Course in Love and the Course in Miracles, I would know that everything that happened in my life was in divine order, that I can't be but with the right person at the right time, and everybody that's really valuable, they're already in my life, and they're in my life now. So everything that could possibly come to me that could possibly be a channel for happiness in my life would have to be able to come through who's ever in my life this minute. So I know sitting up here that each and every one of you are the channel for as much happiness as I could possibly experience in this moment, that there's no one in the world, not my children, not my grandchildren, not my cousins, not my sisters, nobody in this class that's not here that's more important than you. Because you're the ones that's in my life in this moment. The ego is the part of the mind that's all about who's not here. See, the Course teaches you that. It keeps saying, how can I tell when I'm in my ego consciousness? If I'm in my ego consciousness, I think my good is somewhere other than where I am. I think the perfect person is somebody other than the people in my life. I think the perfect city is the city that I'm not in. So this is the perfect city for me to be in this moment. And then when I land in London, that'll be the perfect city for me. Then when I go to Crichton and Gladdenberry and all these other berries and blackberries and all these other berries that I'm getting ready to go to, that'll be the right place for me to be. And that's what I have to be conscious of all the time. That there's no, if I'm in the airport and it's crazy, it's the perfect place for me to be right now is in the airport getting felt on. Everybody with me on this? Are you with me on this? Okay, all right. Because everything that is worthwhile in your life can only enter through the now moment. It can't enter any other time. Why am I saying this? Because I need to remember it. That's why I'm saying this. Because I need to remember it.
Me too.
That's why you're in my life. That's why I'm in your life. So that when you forget, I can remind you. And when I forget, you can remind me. That's our point. You are too awake. You are the too older souls. You can't play the game that the world plays. I don't care if you even think you're new to this. You aren't. You couldn't be in this room right now and be any different than anybody else in this room. Only your ego thinks you are. It is only your ego that would tell you that you are not as aware, or you're not as awake, or you don't know the truth as much as everybody else. That's a bunch of crock. You're in this room because you're equal. And all of us are equal. It's our egos that are different. Just our egos. Our idea of who we are is what's different in this room. Who we are, we're on the same level of consciousness. We're on the same level of awakening. We're in the exact same place in our spiritual development because we see each other. Deep.
Yeah.
That's deep, man. Think about that. You can only be with an equal. And there's nobody more equal to you than whoever you see as your special partner in anything in life. And that's the main place where the ego says you're different. You know, it's amazing how many people try to get in a relationship with somebody because they think either that person's on a higher level of consciousness or a lower level of consciousness, and they're going to help them out. You know, it's like, no, you could not be in each other's reality and truly be different. You couldn't be close and truly be different. And the person that you're the most alike at the level of personal relationships would be the person you're the most physically intimate with. You're really not going to have sex with somebody on a different level of consciousness with you. I'm sorry. I don't care if they seem like they're a murderer. Then you're a murderer too. You're murdering yourself. Or you're murdering yourself in your idea about yourself. Or you're murdering yourself by judging yourself. Or but you can't, the Course says that it's impossible that you be with somebody that's truly different from you. It's impossible. And you think about how many relationships that people are attacking their partner or their friend or whatever because they think, I got it together and this is the person don't really have it together. And I'm the one that's most conscious and they totally unconscious. And you know, it's like, no. They are you. Literally you. That's you. You. So how do I stop the argument? Recognize they're you. That's the first step to getting rid of the arguments, is to recognize they are a reflection of your own subconscious, unconscious, subconscious mind. Unconscious. That's why it's called unconscious. You're not conscious of it. Woo!
Yeah, that's
Woo!
help.
Yeah, that'll end 90% of the arguments and separations in relationship if both people realize they're just alike. Holy children of God, unlimited beings, created in reality, totally different. That's what you are. That's what you are. You're being reborn as the Christ. The Christ is your true self as you were created by God. That's all that means. Who you really are, that innocent being you really are, that powerful being you really are, that created being you really are, separate from how you were programmed, separate from what society and your teachers and your ministers and everybody else told you, separate from that script. That's the Christ. That's the real you. It's the real you that brings you to these classes. It is not your ego. Your ego would not bring you through that door. Your ego is the part that wonders why the hell you're here. Your ego is the part that goes unconscious, that goes asleep, that can't focus in. Obviously, that's not the part that brought you, it's the part that puts you to sleep. The part that brought you is the part that loves you, because it knows you're going to be in the presence of someone that's saying, you're innocent, you're powerful, you deserve to be loved, and you are eternal. That's how you know it's a part of you that loves you. It brings you here regardless of how your ego feels and how long it's worked that day and what it's upset about. Who brought you here tonight? It wasn't the part of you that hates you, that's for sure. That's how you know it exists. That's how you know you are blessed. Because something brings you to where you'll be told you deserve love, regardless of how you feel about yourself. Wow.
That's cool.
So would you acknowledge yourself for being the way you are? And you're awesome. Can we acknowledge each other? I mean, you're in the presence of God. You're in the presence of God. God is here. It's us. It's all of us. Well, that was a case of not letting my subject matter get in the way of what I had to say. No, we actually covered a lot. We covered about 3 or 4 paragraphs.